n'igice kimwe FM.
Umuco ni uzingira ry'ubukungu n'iterambere. Urubyiruko mwe bayobozi b'ejo hazaza muharanire kuwuteza imbere. Radio Imanzi 105 n'igice kimwe FM.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
Good evening, dear listener. Thank you for tuning in. This is Radio Imanzi, 105.1 FM, broadcasting from Kigali. Here are the news in English, brought to you by Alvin Umngali. The headlines. The World Bank's Board of Directors approved $200 million in International Development Association IDA financing to advance Rwanda's policy and institutional reform program. More police officers and mobile cameras will be deployed on roads across the city to arrest drivers for drunk driving and overspeeding. RDF soldiers have completed basic Special Operation Forces training course. The UN coordinator in Burkina Faso, Italian Barbara Imanzi, has been declared persona non grata and asked to leave the country on Friday, according to a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We'll be back shortly with news in detail. Welcome back. The World Bank's Board of Directors approved $200 million in International Development Association IDA financing to advance Rwanda's policy and institutional reform program for human capital development and inclusive economic growth. This is the final credit in a series of 3 World Bank development policies financing operations totaling $525 million over 3 years. Among other reforms, this financing will support the rollout of a new dynamic social registry, which will ensure that critical social sector programs are targeted to those most in need and can be responsive to losses of livelihood or income when households face a range of crises. This foundational reform is also expected to improve efficiency in the spending of public resources and contribute to poverty reduction. Roland Price, World Bank country manager for Rwanda, said this policy and institutional reform program are the anchor of our support to the government of Rwanda on human capital development, and it has already yielded robust results in the areas of healthcare, education, nutrition, and social protection. She continued saying collaborating with the government and working in step with other partners to bring about these reforms will lay a solid foundation for human capital, which remains a key to drive a key driver of Rwanda's socio-economic transformation and will help ensure no one is left behind. Kavita Watsa, World Bank Senior Human Development Operation Officer, said we expect that this series of development policy operations will have lasting benefits in Rwanda, including through the new social registry, a financially sustainable community-based health insurance scheme, and strengthened workforce management in both health facilities and schools. Going forward, Rwanda can also respond more flexibly to crises that affect poor and vulnerable households. The financing approved today is part of broader ongoing support by the World Bank for Health, Education and Social Protection in Rwanda. The World Bank's International Development Association, IDA, established in 1960, helps the world's poorest countries by providing grants and low to zero interest loans for projects and programs that boost economic growth, reduce poverty, and improve poor people's lives. IDA is one of the largest sources of assistance for the world's 74 poorest countries, 39 of which are in Africa. Resources from IDA bring positive change to the 1.3 billion people who who live in IDA countries. Since 1960, IDA has provided $496 billion to 114 countries. Annual commitments have increased steadily and averaged about $3.7 billion over the last 3 years, with about 70% going to Africa. More police officers and mobile cameras will be deployed on roads across the city to arrest drivers for drunk driving and overspeeding. This was said by ACP Jared Maimana, the Commissioner for Traffic and Road Safety, in a press conference about do's and don'ts during the festive seasons for the general security and well-being for the people that was held on Thursday. He said that the measures were taken considered that road traffic fatality rates have increased from 4% in Rwanda in the past years to 5% per 100,000 each year. Worldwide, he quoted the World Health Organization, 1.3 million people are killed by road traffic crashes every year. Traffic police are ready to help Rwandans end the year of 2022 with minimum road accidents. We will deploy more police officers, mobile cameras, patrols and cars on the road and arrest those with overspeeding, as well as alcohol tests to detect drunk driving. We will also test those who consume drugs, he warned the public. Maimana said last year at least 621 people were killed by road fatalities. So far, about 700 fatal accidents have been recorded this year, of which 158 were caused by motorcycles, while 189 were caused by bicycles. At least 240 fatal accidents were caused by pedestrians. He said the number of serious injured people decreased from 471 to 111. We're still carrying out an assessment about this decrease. We think that the installed cameras have played a big role in reducing the overspeeding. Most of them are caused by recklessness, such as driving while on the phone, chatting and or watching videos, among others. Bars and nightclubs owners have been tasked to request people going to the premises to show their national identity cards so as to prevent children from consuming alcohol. Churches, homes, parties, businesses and concerts have also been warned against noise pollution. Prudence Ruingisa, the mayor of the city of Kigali, reiterated that students coming for holidays should be protected from drug abuse, violence, teen pregnancies, among forms of violence. ACP Desire Gumira, the RPC Central Region, added, security is highly needed, especially during the festive seasons. Citizens can enjoy but avoid any behavior violating security. People should make joint efforts in combating theft and robbery. Gatherings in homes, nightclubs, churches are obliged to prevent noise pollution. Bar owners have to play a role in preventing alcoholism among children. He urged residents to share information on time so as to prevent crimes and warned against assault and battery as people enjoy the festive seasons. Today, Rwanda Defense Force officers and other ranks concluded a 10-month basic Special Operation Forces course at the Basic Military Training Center, BMTC, Nasho. The newly trained soldiers demonstrated different skills in special operation tactics while officiating at the ceremony. The RDF Chief of Defense Staff, CDS General Jean Bosco Kazura, congratulated the newly trained officers and other ranks for their milestone achievement, commitment and discipline during the training. The CDS urged the graduates to use the special skills acquired to protect the sovereignty of Rwanda and its people. During the ceremony, different awards were presented to recognize the best students. Second Lieutenant Emmanuel Kanyamujenge was awarded the overall Best Students Award, followed by Second Lieutenant Emmanuel Kwizera Nkangura, who was second overall Best Student. And we'll be back shortly with economic news.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
The trading session recorded a turnover of 10,250,000 rand and francs worth of bonds traded in two deals on the fixed income market and 213,700 rand and francs from 1,900 shares traded in two deals on the equities market. Equities counters closed as follows: MTN Randa at 175 rand and francs, I&M Randa at 43 rand and francs, Bralirwa at 170 rand and francs, Bank of Kigali at 271 rand and francs, Simirgwa at 120 rand and francs, Equity at 440 rand and francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 328 rand and francs, National Media Group at 1,200 rand and francs, Uchumi Supermarket Limited at 104 rand and francs, and R&H Buffalo at 526 rand and francs. The exchange rate today: the United States dollar was buying 1,058 and was selling 1,079 rand and francs. The British pound was buying 1,274 and was selling 1,300 rand and francs. The euro was buying 1,122 and was selling 1,144 rand and francs. The Kenyan shilling was buying 8.5 and was selling 8.7 rand and francs. The Tanzanian shilling was buying 0.45 rand and francs and was selling 0.46 rand and francs. The Ugandan shilling was buying 0.29 and was selling 0.29 rand and francs. The Burundian francs was buying 0.51 rand and francs and was selling 0.52 rand and francs. We'll be back shortly with international news.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
The UN coordinator in Burkina Faso, Italian Barbara Imanzi, has been declared persona non grata and asked to leave the country on Friday, according to a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ms. Barbara Imanzi, resident coordinator of the United Nations system, is declared persona non grata on the territory of Burkina Faso. She is therefore requested to leave Burkina Faso today, December 23, 2022. The statement said, without giving any official reason for the expulsion. According to a diplomatic source, the expulsion is justified by the fact that Ms. Imanzi recently requested and obtained the withdrawal of non-essential personnel of the UN system from Burkina Faso, a decision that risks placing the country in a delicate situation at a time when Burkina Faso is in dire need of partners to face the security and humanitarian crisis. A long list of recriminations have led Burkina Faso diplomacy to take its responsibilities. In addition to the request of the withdrawal of non-essential personnel, Ms. Imanzi is also accused of attempting to influence negatively and of interfering in the political affairs of Burkina Faso. This expulsion comes a few days after the expulsion of two French nationals who worked for a Burkinabe company and were suspected by the authorities for being spies. Burkina Faso has been ruled since the end of September by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, author of a military coup, the second in 8 months. Its Prime Minister Apollinaire Kielema de Tembela had hoped in mid-November to diversify partnership relations until they find the right formula for the interests of Burkina Faso. In July, Burkina's neighbor Mali, also caught up in a serious security crisis, expelled Olivier Salgado, the spokesperson for the United Nations mission in Mali, MINUSMA, for having published, according to the ruling junta, unacceptable information the day after the arrest of 49 Ivorian soldiers in Bamako. The Nigerian military has in 3 weeks killed more than 103 terrorists belonging to Boko Haram and Islamic States of West African State Province, ISWAP, groups in the northeast. The defense media operations say the soldiers were also arrested 40 terrorists, including 4 commanders, and rescued 30 kidnapped victims. DMO Director Major General Musa Danmadami said on Thursday in Abuja that 280 terrorists who surrendered together with their families comprising 29 men, 73 women and 148 children. He gave the update of military operations conducted between December 1st and December 22nd in the northeast, where more than 60,000 people have died since the insurgency started in 2009. More than 2.1 million people have been displaced and more learners have dropped out of school, while farming has been adversely affected and a lot of infrastructure destroyed. The military, which had consistently reported that the terrorists have been decimated, also reported that the current operations have continued to record tremendous successes and have prevented criminals from executing major hits except soft and vulnerable targets. The land and air components of the military, tagged Operation Hadin Kai, have continued to dominate their general area of operation as operational activities were conducted in villages. He also reported that soldiers on internal security operations in the south Nigeria discovered and destroyed 57 illegal petroleum refineries and apprehended 21 oil pipeline vendors in Bayelsa, Delta and River State. Health authorities in Malawi announced on Thursday that the death toll from the cholera outbreak has passed 400. Since the first case were reported in March, the number of infection has been increased, nearing almost 14,000. Malawi's Health Minister Kumbize Chiponda urged people in the worst hit areas to get vaccinated. According to official numbers, 13 out of 15 districts earmarked for the cholera vaccine have managed to get 83.6% coverage. Malawi's largest lakeshore tourist hub, Mongoki, and the country's second largest city, Blantyre, have recorded high numbers of infections. In November, Malawi received 2.9 million doses of the cholera vaccine through the World Health Organization. And that brings us to the end of today's program. Let us look at the headlines once more. The World Bank's Board of Directors approved $200 million in International Development Association (IDA) financing to advance Rwanda's policy and institutional reform program. More police officers and mobile cameras will be deployed on roads across the city to arrest drivers for drunk driving and speeding. RDF soldiers have completed basic Special Operation Forces training course. The UN coordinator in Burkina Faso, Italian Barbara Manzi, has been declared persona non grata and asked to leave the country on Friday, according to a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for staying with me. This was Alvin Umngadi on Imanzi Radio 105.1 FM. Stay tuned, stay safe, and have a wonderful night. Happy holidays.